Myself, K. Tyagarajan, Department of CSC. So I am here with you to discuss about Unit 4, second part, interactive conch shell. The topics to be discussed in this interactive conch shell is conch shell features, two special files, variables, input-output commands, exit status of a command, evil command, environment variables, options, startup script. So these are the topics where we are going to discuss in a few sessions. Coming to the session outcome. So a few sessions we are going to discuss the topics, whatever the topics which I said previous slide. Coming to the session outcome, at the end of the few sessions, student will be able to understand conch shell features. So ultimately, you will understand what are the features of conch shell. You will understand and you can implement variables in shell script. You can understand how to write input-output statements in shell script. You can apply exit status of a command in shell script. You can understand the environment variables. So that is what I expect from you at the end of sessions. So I have a confidence that you can understand shell features. You can understand variables, input-output statements, environment variables. So all these particular topics in coming few sessions. Coming to the introduction, interactive conch shell. Before going to the interactive conch shell, we need to know what is a shell. Shell is a command interpreter. So it's like a mediator in between user and kernel. It interprets a command which is given by the user, and then it conveys them to the kernel. The kernel is ultimately execute them. So this is what your shell will do. So here shortly you try to remember, shell is a command interpreter. So it interprets, it understands the command. So already we discussed in previous chapter, previous unit, in unit 3, what are the different types of shells are there. So we already discussed about C shell, and then a bash shell, conch shell. Here we'll discuss a little bit more about conch shell. So this conch shell is developed by David Korn. That's the reason he named it as conch shell. He developed in AT&T Bell Laboratories. It is a dual purpose utility. It can be used interactively in order to interpret commands, in order to read the commands and execute the commands. It can also be used in programming language to write a shell script. Coming to the conch shell features, the first feature, conch shell sessions. When we use a conch shell interactively, we execute commands at shell prompt. You try to understand in the Linux environment, whenever you logged into the Linux environment, so we can open the prompt, a shell prompt. So this prompt, within a prompt we are going to type all commands. So when a command is typed there, it interprets, so produces some result. So this environment we call it as a conch shell sessions. Coming to the another feature of shell, standard streams. In Linux There are three standard streams are used by commands. Commands are using three standard streams. Each command take an input from a stream, then we call it as a standard input. Try to understand here. Every command, if it is taking an input from a file or input from a keyboard, so command will expect some input. So this input can be from a keyboard or input can be a file. When it is taking an input from a keyboard or when it is taking an input from a file, your file is having a stream of characters. When it is taking an input from a file or a keyboard, so then we call this stream as a standard input stream. Coming to the second, when a command is executed, it creates an output. The output is sent to a stream known as a standard output. The output is sent to a stream. So which stream we are sending this output means we are sending to a monitor. We are sending to a monitor. So here when a command is executed, so your command will try to display the result on the screen. The command will display the result on the screen. This stream we call it as a standard output stream. So coming to the third stream, if a executing command encounters an error, the error message is sent to a standard error stream. So command is executed, but it encounters an error. So it gives a, so take for example, so I typed a command, so but a particular file which is given as an input for a command is not available in my current directory. So when it is not available, I get a message, so error message. So file is not available in current directory. So this is the error message. So this error message is sent to a stream, we call it as a standard error stream. So this message is sent to a monitor. So within a monitor we can read, so what is a error which is encountered for a command execution, right? So these are the three standard streams in the shell environment, so we need to remember. So another important feature in the shell environment is redirection. So before going to the redirection, try to understand, try to continue with the previous slide. Each command may use three streams. Each command, so every command, a command may use three streams. A command can use three streams. One is a standard input stream, a standard output stream, or a standard error stream. So you know, a standard input stream means a command is expecting an input from a file or a command is expecting an input from a keyboard. So if the case is like this, then we call it a standard input stream. So when a command is executed and then it is trying to send the result onto the screen, so this stream we call it as a standard output stream. So when a command is executed, so it encounters an error message. So error message is reported on the screen. So the screen we call it as a standard error stream. The streams are pre-assigned. So all these three streams are pre-assigned for a keyboard and monitor. So these streams are pre-assigned for a keyboard and monitor. So keyboard is in input stream, so monitor is output stream. This thing we need to remember. When ever necessary, we change these streams, defaultly using redirections. So we change the streams. It can be an input stream or it can be output stream. We change the streams temporarily using a redirection. Redirection is a feature in a Linux. Redirection is a process in which when a command is expecting an input from a file, we call it as an input redirection. When a command is expecting an input from a file, a command is expecting an input from a file. So I am giving an input for a command from a file. So then this redirection, we call it as input redirection or a standard input stream. We will go with an example for this. Coming to the another redirection, when a command is executing and it is expecting to write a result onto a file, then it is called standard output redirection. You try to understand, when a command is executed and it is expecting to write the result to a file. I am writing the result of a command to a file, then we call it as standard output redirection or output stream. Coming to the third redirection, if an executing command encounters an error, the error message is sent to a monitor. It is known as a standard error redirection. So it is known as standard error redirection. So these are the redirections: input redirection, output redirection, error redirection. So example for redirection, standard input. So standard input redirection, we have used, take for example, we used a cat command and wc command to read a file from a disk. These commands have an additional method of taking an input. When they are used without an argument, they read a file representing the standard input. By default, keyboard is an input. Otherwise, so when a command is expecting an input from a file means, so we use a symbol less than symbol for redirecting to a file, from a file, redirecting from a file. Take for example, here you can see symbol used for standard input. Symbol used for a standard input is a less than symbol. So I created a file, a small file, by using a cat command. So file name is file. So hi, how are you? So I press the Ctrl C. So here there is a one line statement. Here I can see number of lines are 1, 4 words are there, right? So number of characters from beginning to the end. So there may be a few characters, right? Here I used a wc command. So wc command is for what reason? Means a wc command for counting number of lines, number of words, number of characters in a file. So this command will expect an input. So input can be given through a keyboard or input can be given through a file. So I used less than symbol. So this less than symbol, we call it as input redirection. So input redirection means I have a file. So file is already, the stream of characters is already available in a file. So here from a file I am redirecting all the stream of characters which are available in a file to a command wc. So the command will read data from a file. So and then it is giving us some result. So how many lines, how many characters, how many words are there. So this redirection we call it a standard input redirection. So another one, a standard output redirection. Standard output redirection, here we use a symbol for standard output redirection is greater than. So another symbol double greater than. So here also take for example, so we use a wc command, word count